Hey, so many people come to us and say, what return on investment should I expect from doing a virtual book tour, a podcast book tour? And often it depends on how they are monetizing it, what they have with that. And today I am pleased to talk with the person that I always refer them to. You shouldn't just have the book. You should have 18 streams of income from the book. And that's what Kary Oberbrunner from Igniting Souls does. And Kary, so thrilled to have you here today.
Hey, Tom, it's great to be chatting with you. And likewise, whenever I meet somebody, one of our authors who says, hey, I need some help with a podcast tour, I reference you. So it's exciting. But yeah, this is a really important topic because there's poor authors and there's smart authors. And we can talk about each one of
And
those.
it's interesting. It doesn't mean, they're good authors or bad authors. It's just what they're using the book for, right? And just the same way people come to me and say, I just want to do more interviews. It's like, no, why don't you get more out of the interview? Or the people that are so proud that they have written 27 books, right? And if they've never done anything with them, it's like, instead of just doing more books, why don't you get more out of the book? So can you dig into that a little bit of the difference between poor authors and authors that really make something out of their book?
I'll tell you first where this comes from, Tom. It comes from my own need and desire to want to go pro. So my past story was that I was a pastor who wanted to get published and knew how hard it was to get published traditionally, through a lot of prayer, miracles, et cetera, et cetera. I finally did get 5 traditional publishing deals, 2 with Zondervan, 1 with Relevant, 2 with Baker, and then actually, I guess it would be 6, 1 with a small denominational church publisher too. So 6 traditionally published book deals. And Tom, I kept waiting. I kept waiting for the next book to make it so big that I could go to the church and say, you know what, thank you for letting me serve. And now I can really take my impact and go outside the 4 walls of the church and ignite more souls. And igniting souls is my passion. All right. So unfortunately, the money didn't come. So that's the first thing I'm going to say, is that when people say, oh, if I can just get traditionally published, I'll get a big advance and they'll do all the marketing and I'll just sit back and write books. And that's kind of the lie that a lot of people believe. The truth is that the average advance is between $500 to $5,000 for a first-time author. Certainly, sometimes they can be bigger if you bring a bigger platform. But I just came from a meeting with John Maxwell's team down in Atlanta with Tim Elmore and a book in a weekend. It was a great event, but we literally had Becky Nesbitt stand up, and she has been with Random House, Simon and Schuster, all the big 5. And she said, it is not our job to market your book. Whew. And I was like, finally, a traditional publisher is telling the truth, because Tom, they're not bad people, these traditional publishers, but their expertise is in packaging and editing and printing the book, and they expect the author to do the marketing.
I know you work with Dan Sullivan and the great people at Strategic Coach. And as you were saying that, it reminded me of that who, not how. And that's what you started with. It's like from that and the background in that, and that's so important because I tend to be, and I think a lot of people, oh, I just got to write a book, right? That's the business card. That's going to make me rich. And then they don't see everything that goes into it. And, writing the book is tough. You want to make sure you get the maximum return on investment on there. And I love how you help people think through that and make it a business.
And pre-show, you and I were chatting about our other friend who recently passed, Dan Miller, because he was the connection between you and me, but it was that book that I wrote, Day Job to Dream Job, which is based off the Shawshank metaphor of being stuck in the prison of your day job and needing a plan to build your dream job, your Zihuatanejo. And then I got connected with Dan, reached out to him and said, hey, you've inspired me with your book, 48 Days of the Work You Love. Would you and Joanne want to come to the Shawshank 20th reunion where I'm going to launch my book with the Hollywood celebrities? And it all turned out actually to the date 10 years ago, because we're about ready to celebrate the 10-year anniversary of Day Job to Dream Job. So little did I know, I don't know if you know this trivia, Joanne's father served as a prison guard in the real Shawshank, meaning the Ohio State Reformatory. Did you know that? So that's what got Dan to, like, thank you God, because I sent Dan a package with all kinds of Shawshank memorabilia, thanked him, and I sent the same package to 7 people who'd made an impact in my life, and I invited all 7 to the 20th reunion. None of them responded except for Dan. And Dan, it was the Joanne's prison guard father who, like, she thought, I gotta go. So we were chatting, but Dan's 48 Days of the Work You Love is an example of a guy who turned one book into a life career movement. I mean, he's known on, Facebook, Twitter. His handle is 48 Days.
And I would say he impacted so many people because he took it beyond the book. He wrote the book, which was powerful, but as he said, there were people that then said, well, I've read the book, but I don't know how to do it. Right. So he did the workbook with it. He did the I was in the
Workbook,
mastermind with him,
the
the
mastermind,
membership group.
the sanctuary.
Yeah.
Remember this? I mean, literally, it became, Dave Ramsey referred to him, Michael Hyatt. I mean, it just, Ken Davis. It just became this 48 Days community, mastermind, like you're saying. And so what I did, though, Tom, with my Day Job to Dream Job book, Baker published it. And I was honestly really glad that they did. That was awesome. And nothing against Baker, but you can imagine that me getting the Shawshank Hollywood celebrities, I got, I'm going to say, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of marketing myself, meaning because it's called newsjacking. It's actually a strategy. Everyone knows about Shawshank. Nobody knows about Kary. So what do? You actually newsjack the story of Shawshank. You got to be careful of the IP, intellectual property, but you do it in an ethical way. And now your story became that much bigger. It's the same strategy about somebody who writes a marriage book and then newsjacks Tom Brady's and Giselle's divorce or something like that. It's not, you have to contextualize it. I mean, this is Jesus contextualizing, the Apostle Paul. I mean, the best teachers of the world make the story relevant. And so you have to think, an author has to not have a huge ego. One of my friends, Tom Wheelwright, is the tax guy who helps Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad. And he's humble enough to say, hey, I'm the tax strategist for the Rich Dad Poor Dad. So these are examples that our authors are already going to get a ton of value for, is saying, look, it sounds harsh, but nobody cares about you or your book. Nobody cares about the bald dude with the girl's name, Kary, but they do care about their problem, your solution, which is what a nonfiction book should do. And then they care about the larger story, almost like a Donald Miller story brand, where you have to be the guide, the author, and not the hero.
And the idea of putting the thought behind it, not just the book, but the launch, the publishing. How do you make it timely but timeless, right? That event 10 years ago for Shawshank, right? Now you've got an opportunity every 10 years as it comes out to do like Dan did, an updated edition, or that idea of, Shawshank is one of those things that's timely. It was the 20th anniversary, but it's also timeless. People understand that story, and that's something we talk to our guests about. It's like you got to make it timely and timeless, right? Podcasts are going to be around, and like you said, the other one that a client told us years ago, he said, "You guys are just like Preparation H." And I paused, and I'm like, "What do you mean?" And I thought it was, it's like, is this an insult? And he's like, "No, nobody cares about your product or service, right? They care about their pain in the rear end. And if you can come recommended, you can provide fast relief. People will not only use it, but they'll refer it to other people." And it's a great business model. It's like you and I both get so many referrals from happy clients, and that's really what it's about. And you had said something as we were talking that was a paradigm shift for me. So many people say, write a book because it can be your business card. And you've got a different view on that. And I'm looking at it going, yeah, I don't carry business cards anymore.
I cringe when I hear people say, and I've been in the top masterminds in the world, and someone will stand up and be like, your book's just your business card, and I'm like, oh my gosh, because think about what you do with business cards. First of all, do people even use them? But second of all, if you do get one, tell me the last time you stood up and said, this business card changed my life. Like, you never have said that. What do? You throw them away. Well, yet most people have said about a book, this book changed my life. And we have something in the English language that we say when someone is a massive authority figure. We say Tiger Woods wrote the book on golf. Michael Jordan wrote the book on basketball. We use the term wrote the book even if they didn't write the book, because they're so much of the perceived expert. We never say Michael Jordan created the business card for basketball. Like, you don't even say that, and books have been around for thousands of years. A lot of us follow the ancient scriptures. God put his words in book form. Not to get all faith in you, but I'm a former pastor, but, it talks about Christ being the word, So my point is that books are powerful. They literally are life-changing. Words create worlds. I've heard that. That's not my own. That's powerful. So what we do, Tom, is we basically say that on the front end, because we do publish, protect, and promote IP. We don't even say books anymore. We say we publish, protect, and promote intellectual property and turn it into 18 streams of income. Now, why do we say books are IP? Because intellectual property, I don't know if you know this, Tom, this is mind-blowing, but the S&P 500, which is the 500, biggest brands, they did, they always track it. And they say how much of the resources of the 500 top companies are tangible, bricks and mortar, equipment, cash, how much is intangible, IP, okay? I was born in 76, but in 75, 17% of the S&P 500 was IP, okay? Today, so 2020, it crossed 90%. In 2024, it's more like 96%. So that means my iPhone, 90% at least, I go conservative, I'll go 90%. 90% of the value is not in the parts and pieces, it's in the intellectual property. Therefore, same thing with entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs, 90% of their business is in the IP. Think about this for a moment. Who is Taylor Swift and what does she do? Most people say she's a singer who writes songs. Not true. She even knows it. Taylor Swift has filed over 300 trademarks. Taylor Swift is an IP company who creates IP. Play-Doh, the stuff that we play with, right? They've trademarked the scent. Like literally, Play-Doh has copyrighted the IP of the smell. Krispy Kreme. I could go on and on and on. Coca-Cola, the trade secret. So all I'm trying to say is like everybody who's an author here, if they don't realize, first of all, that they're creating intellectual property, they're not going to take themselves seriously. Neither is their clients, their collaborators, or their competitors. So the first step I would tell Tom is everybody's writing a book. You're not writing a book. You're writing intellectual property. And that property has massive value.
That is such a paradigm shift, right? And I expected it to go from 17% to 50%. The idea that it's almost getting to be 100% is true, right? Because the data is in a company, and our mutual friend Mike Koenigs talks about this too, right? The ideas that you have, those are what's valuable. The data that the company collects, right? Why can somebody not do the same thing you do? Well, Kary's got decades of experience. You try to copy. Yeah, if you try to copy somebody and you get 90% of it right, that's useless, right? It's either 100 or it's not. And so from that standpoint, it's like that is powerful as we go more to a digital side. And to leverage that IP is how you're going to get return on investment from that, right? It's not just making more IP, but how do you leverage that, right? If Taylor Swift never sang the song or never put it on Spotify, yeah, great, she's got a lot of trademarks, but she's not getting anything from it.
Dolly Parton's making a lot of money off of her IP, and she's not even singing those songs. So whether it's Strategic Coach, whether it's our friends at EOS, these are all IP companies, and they know it. They absolutely know that they're, when Dan Sullivan creates a strategy circle or an impact filter or the who, not how that we talked about, those are all terms that he has protected with IP. And here's what I hear a lot of times, Tom. I hear people say, I'm just generous with my IP. And I say, okay, hold on. I get it. What happens though, if somebody else takes your idea, then they protect it. So I have a real client named Chris Maxon with AccuCraft Fireplaces in Minnesota. He created this technology called baby-proof glass. Think about it. Babies, he makes the fireplaces for Dolly Parton. I'm not even joking. I can't say some of his clients because they've signed NDAs. This guy is like the top-notch fireplace guy in the world, and we're helping him publish his book. The point is, Chris is so generous. He's like, I'm not going to protect my IP. And we said, okay, Chris, what if a competitor takes your baby-proof glass, protects it, and now you can't? And he said, I'd go out of business. That's the point. You know what I'm saying? It's not just about you being generous with your IP. It's about other people then saying, well, we'll just take it, make it our own, and now you can't use it. Imagine if somebody did that for your business, Tom. Like all of the proven processes, the checklists, the data, the customer loyalty, all the things that you've developed, that is the value of your incredible company.
And I would look back at that and say, taking back from the financials, the value, what if somebody goes and I'll say it steals, right, your IP that you haven't protected, and then they don't do it right? What if all of a sudden everybody thinks, oh, baby-proof glass is amazing, right? And then somebody comes in and knocks it off, and guess what? It's not baby-proof, and a lot of people get hurt over that, right? What if somebody steals what you have and uses it for nefarious purposes, right? You don't want that to happen, right?
And even just you go to a McDonald's in Atlanta, Georgia, and order your Big Mac, and instead of Thousand Island dressing, it has French dressing, or it does, like I don't even eat Big Macs, but you get the point. Like there's this concept of trust and loyalty which creates repeat business. So when I get a Smoothie King and I order a certain kind, it tastes the same. So I mean, that's IP. Believe it or not, that is IP as well. And so, I mean, people, once your IP glasses are open, you see it everywhere. You see like, oh my gosh, this is IP. The way that they did that and this and this is IP and this is IP. Like, we don't realize it, but the whole world is intellectual property.
And I think it goes back to, it's your thought. It's what makes us different. What we're creative like the creator that made us, right? So that's the intellectual property, your creativity. And that's what people buy you for.
Yeah. Why are they buying Simon Sinek? Start with why, and did other people say that before? Maybe, I don't know, but he got on a TEDx and a platform, and certainly very quickly he then made it his IP. So I first of all, I start with IP because, Tom, unless you create a fence around your book, it's just like property. You go down to a really tough neighborhood in any city, and you put diamonds and Rolex watches and gold in that yard without a fence, you're not going to go to sleep at night and expect it to be up the next morning. It's going to be gone. So what we do, Tom, is we talk about your IP needs a fence, but how big does the fence need to be? I don't think everything needs to be a patent, because a patent is $20K and takes 1 to 3 years. So that's why our team has created this blockchain-based technology that timestamps IP, so that when you come up with an idea, literally in seconds, that goes into what's called a smart contract. It's now on the blockchain, and everybody on the whole planet can see it on any device, and it's time stamped, which means that it can never be changed. Not even you, not even me. No one can go back and say, well, let's change the timestamp. And all intellectual property is based on time. So that's why I don't own the golden arches, because today I could come up with it, but they came up with it at a certain time. So this is where Igniting Souls is totally unique, because we are the only transformational publisher in the world. What that means is that we get all the same distribution channels as the traditional publisher, but our authors get the books at print cost. So this is where a lot of traditional publishers, nothing against them, but this is where they make their money. They know that it costs $350 to print a book, but they give the author a discount of 50% off retail. Well, 50% off retail, normal books are about $15 soft cover. So then they're selling them for $750. They're pocketing $4 a book. And they're not bad people. I mean, they're betting on you. They need to pay the cover designer, editor, copyright, the whole thing. But that's where they make their money. Well, our model is you pay us to publish your book, but you own all your IP, not the traditional publishers. They'll keep that, and that's where they make a lot of money. In fact, there's something in the contracts, Tom, where they say we own all your IP in audio and ebook and print book and all future technologies which will be developed.
So let's unpack that a little bit, right? You said, I think it was 6 or 7 books that were done through traditional means, right? So the average traditional means would say that if that book takes off, or you want to do more with that book, it's not your book anymore. You're the author, but you can't do the course, the mastermind, all those things without permission.
Yeah, you might not be able to do the 18 streams. And this is where you really got to be careful about what you're signing. Because think about Harry Potter for a moment. Harry Potter's been in not 18 streams, but probably 1,800 streams. I mean, they got Legos, they got toothbrush. I mean, that's all IP off of a book. So it's really important that J.K. Rowling is very careful about what she signs, because, I mean, this could go into movie rights, this could go into video games, you name it. So therefore, I really feel like the model that Igniting Souls pushes is you might pay up front for our services, but you're going to win. And that's why we only appeal to certain people, Tom. We appeal to, we said it before we started, abundant-minded, growth-oriented, competent entrepreneurs who say, look, I'm willing to put a little bit of money in so that it's a great thing, so we get all the bells and whistles, and then I own it all. I get it all. There's a client of ours named Justin Donald, lifestyle investor. We did everything for that guy. He hired us. We got him number one on USA Today. We beat Barack Obama. Number one on Wall Street Journal. We beat Barack Obama, Dave Asprey, Stephen Hawking. We got him number one. And USA Today. He was a Cutco knife guy before he met us.
From Elgin, Illinois.
I don't know where maybe he was.
Yeah,
maybe he was from Elgin.
He grew up about 10 miles from me. I know him, later on in life, but you look at that and just say from that, it's like, okay, he didn't have the inside, right? He had the right way to do that, right? And it came with a system there. It wasn't that it was just his book was more memorable or he was more famous than Barack Obama. No, it was the system.
It was the system. It was our IP. Yeah. So Justin, like the right fit client that he was, he saw the upside and said, wow, I can come to you guys. I can get my book out. I can have it, you market it well. I can have you turn it into 18 streams of income and I'll pay you. That guy is making around, don't quote me on it, but roughly, even if you just do the math from his website, $8 million a year. $8 million a year off of his book. Why? Because he's got a $55,000 mastermind. Why? Because he's literally getting people that deal flow that you can't get anywhere else on the planet. Okay. He teaches you how to become a lifestyle investor. He's got the skills. He's got the proof. But then he's got a master class. Then he's got a course. Then he's got a podcast. I mean, you just start going down the list and he's got it all. And you might say, well, Kary, how much is Igniting Souls making off Justin? 0. And that's okay. I'm happy for him. And he refers us a ton. I'm happy for him because he took the risk to pay us to do the book and protect his IP. And now for the rest of his life, he gets this asset that produces income every single year.
Let's talk about some of those revenue streams, because one of the things I hear people say is that, well, I'm going to wait to promote my book, or I'm going to wait to do this until I get everything set up. And it's like, what is that critical mass where you have to have enough to start talking about your book, and does it grow with time? Can you add more streams in it?
Oh, yeah. I don't think you need all 18. There's a guy named Pat Luce, Patluse. You can find him at Dr. Pat Luce. He's Dr. Pat Luce. I'm going to say he's 70. So I tell this story because I hope he listens. I hope he's not offended. He's not the most dynamic speaker. And he knows that. Like, you put Tony Robbins next to Pat Luce and you're like, oh my gosh, But what he is he's amazing at helping people lose weight according to what his book is called, The 7 Systems Plan. Now, when he came to us, Tom, he was probably 63. He was thinking, I'm a chiropractor, functional medicine. I'm at the end of my career. He comes to us and says, I got a bunch of notes. I don't even think I can write the book, but I want to change lives. And the reason why he really wrote the book, honestly, is because there was a woman who was so sick, she could not make it to his office. And she lived in several other states, but heard about his work. So she said, can you put this in a form that I can access it and get healing? And if you go to drpatluce.com, you can see exactly the pictures. She's on her deathbed, and then she's playing with her grandkids, about a year later. And so he just sent her notes, but he came to us and said, can you turn this into a book? We help. So we do that too. We literally don't need an author to even write one word. And that's why we call them authors versus writers. There's nothing hidden or unethical. Some people should not write a book. Some people should have a ghostwriter write a book. There's nothing shameful about that. I mean, think about it. Am I going to build my own house? No. I don't want to build a house.
But going back to the intellectual property, it's all of his ideas and somebody else does it, right? You could come back to business owners, right? Did Steve Jobs build the equipment? No, but he had the ideas there and found the right people at who, not how, right?
Edison got so many patents, even though he didn't do everything. Warhol got so many art things, even though he didn't do everything. This is the way that it works. Mark Zuckerberg is not coding everything. So, we have to realize, first of all, that we don't have to do everything. Dan Sullivan, one of my coach, says, if you have a problem and you have money, you don't have a problem. Meaning, if you have a problem and you can hire somebody who not only does it, but loves to do it, like what Tom Schwab does is amazing. Why would I try to do what he does when he can do it 100 times better? It's a privilege to pay him. It's his passion. Why would I do that? And yet some people, again, I grew up as a poverty-minded guy in ministry. I had to work through a lot of this baggage, Tom, because, Midwestern, do it yourself. And there's pride there. No way. That's loser thinking. But back to Pat Lusa really quick. All he did is one income stream besides his book, and that was a course. So he literally created a 7 systems plan book-based course, which we helped him with. And that has had over 2,000 people join. So these are modest numbers. 2,000 people, 100% guarantee. The courses started at $497, went up, is now $897. But think about it, $897, guaranteed results if you follow it, and it will literally give you your health back. Do the math, $1.8 million from his book.
It's powerful. And when people say, well, you make a buck or two from each book. Well, no, are you focused on the book or the IP? And that's the paradigm that, I think you have brought here today. And, I always say what's ordinary to you is amazing to other people, right? You've got that clarity around this that you've been working through for decades. And it strikes me to think a decade ago was when you launched your book there at Shawshank. I can still remember that. And as Dan Miller always said, we should double our impact every 10 years. And to see what you've done in this last 10 years, and then see what you and Igniting Souls are doing in the next decade, it's amazing. I've always said there's a lot of problems in the world, and there's no better time to be alive.
That's the truth, man.
Yeah.
That's the truth. Yeah. Just to wrap up my part, and I don't know how long we go, but man, whenever we got to roll, but I will just encourage people that get started. It's so easy to compare and get discouraged and say, well, I'm not, whoever, James Clear, Atomic Habits. I had smoothie with James Clear about 4 years ago in Columbus. A friend set us up to chat, and he was literally saying, I don't know if I'm going to finish this book, Atomic Habits. I don't know, man. It's not in me. My deadlines are coming. And look at today. It's like one of the number one books on the planet. And here's a guy who said, I just don't think I'm going to do it. I just want to encourage everybody. Like, if you have an idea for a book, something in you has already created that reality. I say that everything has been created twice, once in the mind and second in real life. And so you have already created that reality in your brain. Now you just have to go out and execute the action. And a guy like Tom, a guy like me can be the who, so that you don't have to ask how to do everything as well.
Kary, thank you so much. If people want to connect with you, where can they go? What's that next step?
So igniting-souls.com is our website. And if people do want to work with us, just igniting-souls.com/apply. And we will be so honest with you, and we will say, you know what, we think you have something here, and we think we're a right fit. Or we might say, we don't think we're a right fit, but we have somebody who is. So we don't waste people's time or money. We're really straight shooters. But Tom, it's been great to know you this last decade, and we're both committed to people's success. So it's a brand fit for sure.
Well, here's to the next decade of all the impact that is made by us and the people that we work with. It's going to be an exciting time.